Good morning, this is Brent with Lykins Motorsports. You are looking at a Pond cast iron aftermarket FE block, fully machined, ready to assemble. This is for one of my customers, Mr. Roger. We're doing a 427 medium riser build for his Cobra replica. And Mr. Roger, I have sent you probably 4 or 5 emails this week, and I'm hoping that you're okay. Otherwise, I'm just hoping that the emails are sitting in your junk folder or something. So if you see this video, check your email, check your junk folder, and shoot me a couple back so I can be in communication with you. Like I said, this is a Pond cast iron block. There are only 2 manufacturers for aftermarket FE blocks right now, Pond and BBM. Both of them are excellent blocks, and I use them both. Both of them have side oiler oiling. So you have this main oil gallery that goes down the length of the block, and then these offshoots that go up and feed the mains. It is a priority main system. If you follow the oil path, the lifters are fed at the end of the oiling path by this passage that runs up vertically, and then this actually deadheads about right here. So you got this oil path that shoots off to each of your lifter galleries. This block is currently sitting at a 4,250 bore size, and they'll go up considerably bigger than that for some big cubic inch builds. I've done them at 4,310 and a little bit bigger, I think. So you're able to make some pretty good size engines with these blocks. Very, very well designed and well built, and fighting allergies this morning. So excuse me if I sniff. But I've heard of guys running 1,000 horsepower forced induction builds through these blocks and then some. So they will handle whatever you want to throw at them. If you're doing one of these builds at home with a Pond block, we'll just go over a couple of things that you need to watch out for if you haven't done it before. The lifter bores come undersized by about 3 thousandths, so you will need a dedicated lifter hone to do that. To get them on size, and you just measure your lifter diameter that you're going to be using, because they vary a little bit, and then just size appropriately. This one has been sized to 1.5 thou clearance on each one. The plug behind the distributor, this is common to all FEs. On factory block FEs, there's a cut plug here, which we tend to or choose to pipe tap those with a 1/4 inch pipe tap, and then you just run a plug in here and block that. It's already tapped on these blocks, but you have to I did this one yesterday and had to tap it about 2 or 3 threads a little bit deeper, and then go back through and clearance my lifter bore, but that was okay. The aftermarket blocks use a different set of cam bearings. They use a Durabond FP01 set. They are much wider than a factory FE cam bearing. What I tend to do, if you use the FP01 bearing, it extends way out here, and what happens is your distributor gear gets into it. So I have just had the habit of using a regular F33 Durabond front bearing here, and that way the distributor drops in. You don't have to clearance the cam bearing or anything like that. Let me roll this over and I'll show you some other stuff. Okay, so the blocks start out, they're cast with a C5 AE cast number, which is a 65 side oiler cast number, and they even are cast with the 352 in the driver's side below the cylinder head there. The oil, and speak English, the oil pump hole needs to be blended. That's pretty typical for all FE stuff. The main caps are doweled and cross-bolted with ARP fasteners. Like I said, it's a very stout block. They use Cleveland bearings, which is straight up awesome because there's a lot more bearing choices for the Cleveland than there is for the FE. Screw-in freeze plugs, and they actually use this aluminum screw-in plug, same plug they use for their aluminum blocks, which is real nice, and they are O-ringed, which is super nice. The cam bearings, as you can see, they are wide. When you knock these in, if you're doing this at home, just be very careful about where you set these bearings, because if you drive them in this hole here particularly, if you drive that bearing in too far this way, you'll block the lifter hole, and that's a bad thing to find out once you have the engine together. Same deal with this one down here. You just got to be careful. On the rear cam bearing, I've seen some discrepancies on where the feed for that bearing is. So when you knock that bearing in, if you're normally used to messing with FEs, you knock that last cam bearing in, and since this hole does not go straight down, it's got a 90 degrees and then it heads back that way, you can't really see if the holes line up when you drive it in. So just use a mirror or turn the block up on this side and look. But you may have to clearance the hole in the bearing to make the oil holes line up. So no big deal there. Yeah, just a beefy piece of cast iron. It uses these billet main caps with ARP fasteners, really high-end stuff. And yeah. So this block has been fully machined. The mains have been line honed. The decks have been squared up, and the cylinders have been bored and honed with torque plates. So we are ready to rock and roll. I just noticed this big oil path. That's pretty substantial. It's pretty cool. But I've already washed this block. Cam bearings are in. The cam turns like butter. I've measured my piston to cylinder wall clearance, and just got some things out of the way before I put the pretty paint and everything on. And that's about where I am right now. So I'm going to rotate this back right side up and pin my engine stand so that it doesn't move. I'm gonna put the heads on it, I'll put the timing cover on it, and I'm gonna throw some paint on it. This is how I know, is this bead of weld here. This is my very first engine stand. Bought this, let's see, 21 years ago. So I always enjoy it when an engine goes on my very first engine stand. All right, guys, give me a few minutes to get this right side up and get the heads and everything on it, and we're gonna throw some paint on it. All right, so now we have our engine ready for paint. I've got the timing cover on it that will go on it, the heads that will go on it, and we've got everything masked off that doesn't need to be painted. We're gonna use some VHT engine enamel. This is satin black, wherever the label is. It's on there somewhere, I promise. It's black. One thing I didn't point out a minute ago is that the main oil gallery for this block on the front uses a pipe plug, but on the rear it uses this really slick O-ring AN fitting, which is really nice. You don't have to worry about that leaking. All right, we're gonna get some paint on it. All right, now we are looking at a fresh coat of satin black paint. Everything looks good. I painted it all together like that just so it'll be uniform color. So now I'm gonna pull the heads back off because I'm pretty much done with those, and put those back into storage, and do some work on the engine block. We can put the cam in, we can get the oil filter adapter on, all the gallery plugs need to be put in, so we can get that done. All right, so when we put these gallery plugs in, just each time you put one in, and this goes for stock or aftermarket, but like this plug right here, you just want to make sure that it doesn't occlude the passage inside. So you can barely see the little part of the front of the plug coming through. It is not blocking any of the passages. You can do that by looking down, intersecting holes, or you can take a measurement of how long your plug is versus where the hole is down in the gallery. But just something to check. Just don't take anything for granted, especially on this hole right here, because if you block this one, then you can block oil to your cam bearing. Okay, on this plug that goes behind the distributor, you just want to make sure that it's below this surface. Otherwise, it can hang up your distributor as you try to put it in. And if you run into that, by the time your distributor is ready to go in, then it's too late. So check that right off the bat. Okay, same deal with your main oil galleries that go off to the main bearings. Screw those in, and then you can look down this hole. You can shine a light down the other end, and you can see that they're not, sorry, that little whatever was bothering me. You can make sure that they're not blocking off this main oil feed. This front plug has always been an issue with pretty much every side oiler block, because you don't want the plug to go in so deep that it blocks off that main oil hole right there. This is what feeds your front cam bearing and front main bearing, so you certainly don't want to block that off. But you just kind of have to watch, and sometimes you have to cut plugs off. Sometimes you have to find plugs that stick out further, or you just do whatever you have to do, and then you can shine a light up this hole and make sure that it doesn't block anything. On this plug, it is not NPT like the front is, but it uses one of these O-ringed AN plugs, and you can just screw that in, and then use an AN wrench or an aluminum wrench to tighten it up. Okay, so here are the freeze plugs for the block, and they just screw in. They've got some nice O-ring on them. I use a piece of 1-inch hex, and then use a 1-inch socket with a 1/2-inch drive ratchet and tighten those up. All right, this is the camshaft we're going to be using. This is one of my custom billet core hydraulic rollers. Advantage of a hydraulic roller, you may not gain a lot of horsepower at lower RPM in comparison to a flat tappet, but you do eliminate all the break-in issues, and a hydraulic roller will essentially last for forever. So we're going with this cam. I've already mic'd our cam bearing clearances, so you do that by setting your outside mic to each journal, and then setting your bore mic to that outside mic, and then check your bearing clearance just as you would with a rod bearing or a main bearing. I got 2.5 thousandths on that, so we're good shape. Here is how our block is looking with all of our gallery plugs in, and we're in good shape. I want to get this cam stabbed in there, and we'll get our thrust plate on, and then we'll turn our attention to the oil filter adapter, and that will comprise of gasket matching our gasket to the oil filter adapter passages, and then getting that bolted on. Right, our cam is in. I don't even have a dial in, and this is how easy it is to turn. Generally with these aftermarket blocks, the cam tunnels are all CNC machined and nice and straight and true, and nothing like the old factory stuff. So clearance is good. The cam tunnel is properly aligned, so we should have no problems with the camshaft turning. Okay, so we have our new oil filter adapter. This has the large passages. This one's brand new. And they come with these gaskets, but the gaskets always overlay. So the easiest way to fix that is to just lay the gasket on the adapter and just use a little ball peen hammer or something. Tap around the gasket and it'll leave an imprint, and then you can take an X-Acto knife and cut it out better. Make sure to always wash these, and then you can bolt them on. Alright, so we got our thrust plate on, and it is the correct thickness. You will most likely have trouble if you buy a brand new steel thrust plate for FEs. They are pretty thick, and I've never had one go on without needing to be cut down. I have them cut down by the truckload, so I don't have to do it. Same thing with your aftermarket thrust plate bolts. The lower right hand bolt, will always block the feed to the distributor gear unless you cut it off, and it needs to be about 5/8 underhead length. So that's done. Cam dowels is in. I am now setting up my piston rings. We're using Total Seal. Total Seal rings, 1.5, 3 millimeter. It's got a Napier second, which is really nice. And I'm gapping these to 20 thousandths on the top ring, 22 on the second ring. We're using our Total Seal ring grinder, which is really nice because you just set it and then you just dial in how much gap you want, and no second guessing. But we're doing that. We're getting our rings gapped. Bearings just came in from Calico. I probably will not get the bearing clearances checked this weekend. Probably start on that next week, because I have some other things I would like to do and show you guys. Those boxes way over there are some tunnel port stuff that came in, and I haven't cracked those open yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing those. All right, we got our rings gapped. It took me about an hour. I hate gapping rings. That is I just hate it. It's just really monotonous and just boring to me. And on this engine, sometimes it happens where the little oil rails don't have sufficient clearance. You're supposed to have about 15 thousandths clearance there, and they were a little bit on the tight side. So not only did I have to gap the first and second ring, but your oil rails as well. So it took me an extra long time. I'm very thankful that I have that ring grinder because it does make quick work of it, but I'm just glad to have that done. So the next step would be to check our main and rod bearing clearances. Sorry, I just stuck my finger in front of the camera. Here's our crankshaft that we're going to be using. It's a gorgeous 3/7/8 stroke cast crank, much lighter than the steel cranks, and plenty stout for this kind of application. But our bearings came in from Calico, coated the mains and the rods both, and we're going to check our bearing clearances. Probably won't do that today. Gonna call it quits for this weekend, and pick up next week and see where we get. But yeah, again, Mr. Roger, if you see this video, email me, please. To everybody else, hope you have a wonderful weekend. Probably will have one more video to show the top end that's coming for the next dyno mule, and it's going to be a tunnel port, and I think I got a good name for that one coming up. But I'll showcase the heads and the intake that we're going to use on that. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and that like button, and thank you for everything that you guys do. Thank you for watching and the support that gives me. Hopefully it helps you out to watch the videos. Got a lot more stuff coming, so stay tuned, and have a good weekend.